Eric, we're back for our last and final of 2026.
Hard to believe that 2025 is coming to a close, but here we are. So
I just said 2026.
No, yeah, we're about to start 2026. I didn't even pick up on that. Now you're jumping ahead, and that's actually better that way. Let's just dive right in and get going. No rest for the wicked.
Well, we started this initiative of these Leadership Corner videos this year, and it's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun. They come up very often.
Well, it's monthly, and at least I get to sit down with you once a month. But they've been really well received, and they're gaining more and more viewership every month. And this month, we are going to talk about title services in new construction.
Yeah.
So first thing that you can maybe touch on is, what kind of issues do you most commonly uncover when researching undeveloped or subdivided land?
Yeah, so we have a really healthy stable of builder customers and clients who buy tracts of land and then do some subdividing and building and selling off parcels. And I would say the biggest challenge and some of the things we have to navigate there with the builders is anytime you are breaking down property from a large tract into subdivided tracts, you're having to work with multiple agencies, particularly taxing authorities, to try and get those to the appropriate sizes and levels. So when you're subdividing, you've got typically like a parent account, and then you're working your way down to these individual accounts. Mm-hmm. And so some of the biggest challenges that we have as we see builders working on it is really surrounding the taxes, and so that's that parsing down to the individual accounts and working with it, and then the timing of that, because the timing oftentimes happens once a year at the end of the year, and when the bills come out, and sometimes that rolls into a new year. And then the other challenge that we have, and again, a lot of it focuses around taxing, is the challenge of undeveloped raw land versus fully constructed pieces and fully, So when you have a full piece of property built. So timing is everything in those deals, making sure that from a title company perspective, we are preparing accurately, reviewing correctly, making sure that we're collecting enough taxes when enough taxes are due, notifying our customers, hey, you're having a lower tax year than you will next year, making sure that the lender is, if there's escrowing enough money for what the taxes will be moving into the future.
Because the value is
because perhaps at this point in time, land. That's right. You move. They purchase the property or get into the property in May or June or whatever it may be, but they haven't assessed the taxes yet. It's still undeveloped property. The house wasn't built or finished until that time. So and that particular year, closing out that calendar year, there's not going to be a large tax bill, right? But then moving into the following year, all of a sudden it's the
times 10.
It's the improvement plus the land, and it changes the dynamic. So our big challenge as a title company is being well versed to be able to explain it well, explain it accurately, and then also work with all the other parties to be able to prepare folks for that, right? And so that I think is more than anything. In all things in what we do as a title company, we want to avoid surprises.
Yes.
We want to do our best to make sure that everyone is fully read in and aware of any potential challenges, or when things are not necessarily cookie cutter, when they're not straight out laid away, that we're explaining it in a way that there's preparation.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest thing. And so most of that, when it comes to new construction, there are some other things, you got to be prepared for, doing some homework, contractors and subcontractors and liens, and we can talk about that in a second, I'm sure. But taxes are usually the biggest challenge for our builders, and then working with those builders when they acquire property.
Great. Makes a lot of sense. As you know, I bought 11.5 acres. It had an ag exemption.
Oh.
And then I built a house. And yes, those tax bills were very different.
Yeah, rollbacks are also a challenge, right? You have undeveloped raw land, and maybe there's an exemption on there, and then you're going to change the use of that land. And that doesn't just go for new construction. That is a big part of it sometimes, right? But like you mentioned, if you buy a tract, then you got to make sure that the rules are being followed, and what can stay ag, what maybe is no longer ag, if you're going to change use of property, and then who's responsible for that. And so oftentimes it can be a uncomfortable conversation when somebody owns a piece of property and they haven't had to pay taxes, and now they're selling it to somebody who's going to change the use on it, and who's going to be responsible. And at the end of the day, the county doesn't care. The county has the ability to roll back if there's a change of use, and up to 3 years they can roll it back. And so those things can
That's
can cause
significant.
they can cause a pretty high bill for sure.
All right. Well, you mentioned a minute ago. Can you explain mechanics liens or contractor disputes impact on the title of a new construction project?
Well, sure. So when you're building a home or you're entering into a deal with someone, and typically you have a new homeowner who will be engaging with a general contractor or a builder to build something on their property. Or if they're buying a property that was a spec build, this could apply as well. It's a little different in that scenario. But if you're engaging with the general contractor, you're going to make an agreement. You will have a mechanics lien contract with the builder to build a piece of property. Typically, those builders, those contractors, they don't employ all the people who work for them to do the work, right? They're the general contractor, and so they sub out, what is the terminology, right? You subcontractors, so they sub out the work. So they can be all sorts of different trades, and you know this firsthand, right? you GC'd your own deal.
I did.
So, but when you sub out, you're a brave woman. But when you do sub out, you're working with all sorts of different trades, from electricians to plumbers to roofers to framers, all of it.
Insulation,
right?
Yep.
Exactly, HVAC and so on and so forth. And so if you have a GC, if you enter into a mechanics lien contract with somebody to build a property, and there's an agreement for a certain price in order to make that happen, well, there's a level of trust that you want to be able to have in your contractor, that they're going to take care of their business, and they've bid it out everything at the price, and it's all going to line up with the contract price. And so when you're pulling down money, or they're pulling down money from your lender and making draws, and all of that money is paying in full every time what they're supposed to be being paid for. And there are rules in the Texas Property Code, and I would encourage anybody who's going to be building a home to engage with a real estate attorney and really dive into Property Code 53 and understand the rules and what the responsibilities are of all the parties, and retainage and what that looks like, and how much to retain, and who should be retaining what, in order to protect yourself from the potential for some of these subcontractor liens or these mechanics liens by affidavit that get filed because maybe they didn't get paid. And in any of these situations, there are going to be challenges, right? There are going to be things that come along that don't go exactly according to plan. The supply chain delays, lumber costs more, the carpet is more expensive than anticipated. That wasn't the right shingling on the roof, so you got to stop midway through, and then it's who's paying for what.
Who's paying for it,
Exactly. And sometimes it comes down to the labor as opposed to the material. Sometimes the GC will cover the cost of the mistake, but maybe they want to hold accountable the subcontractor. The subcontractor doesn't want to be held accountable. They said, I'm doing the work and you told me wrong. There's a million things that can take place.
So they file a mechanics lien because there's a disagreement.
Oftentimes there's a disagreement because they didn't get paid what they expected. So then they file a mechanics lien by affidavit against the property and say, hey, I didn't get paid in full for this, and they try to hold them responsible. So all of that being said, from a title company's perspective, we are going to go and we're going to pull up everything that we possibly can. We're going to pay attention to it. If it's a one-time close situation, we're going to pull title and we're going to bring it today. If the homeowners need to be very well aware. If it's a two-time close situation where you had a rate on the construction loan and you're going to be closing again and it's going to be an updated title, we're going to pull it again. And so anything that got filed up until that point will be found on the title commitment. Those things are going to have to be handled and dealt with, and we want to make sure that all bills paid affidavits are done and people are signing off and taking responsibility. And all the subs are saying that they got paid, the GC is saying that they got paid in full before we close, because the last thing we want is for the homeowner 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road to find out or get a notice that something wasn't paid or there wasn't something done. We want to head that off at the pass. That's our job as a title company to give them that assurance, right? And do the work to do our best to try to make sure that that's not the case. they want to buy a title policy that'll protect them in those situations. But in that, we got to all make sure that we're doing our best and being as diligent as we possibly can and being vigilant to make sure that everything is. So sometimes these transactions can get a little bit, what's the right word? Sometimes these transactions can cause a little bit of strife and a little bit of heartache because the demands from the title company to make sure that everything is completely, all T's are crossed, I's are dotted, everything is copacetic, can be a little bit more than a normal closing, and we want to make sure that that's getting done correctly. And so there's nothing like a new home, one that you built.
Yeah.
And then again, even to another point is rather than doing a custom home where you have the homeowner, if you're buying a spec home, right, it's in the process of being completed and so on, the same sort of diligence is required because the same challenges are there. If the sub or the GC or the builder decided that the sub didn't do the job the right way or a way that wasn't right, and they didn't pay, they fired the landscaper midway through, or they fired the roofer midway through and had to bring somebody else in. We don't want to be judge, jury, and executioner on that.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is make sure that everybody's gotten paid and there's not going to be any problems for the homeowner.
I can tell you from building my own house, I mean, it's so much more complicated than a resale. And hopefully the consumer doesn't experience that. But because I was the GC, I would work with one person on a manager or whomever from the different trades, but then it's a different crew that shows up.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of room for error in there, and
a lot of moving parts, a lot of communication that's necessary, and there are people who are doing the work and are working hard to try and get the job done the way that they were explained to get it done. But there's like in anything, sometimes it becomes a game of telephone.
It does. And that's a great example. And what gets
asked for, requested, it gets garbled down the line, and it doesn't quite come out that way. And so there's nothing like there's a old saying that a very near and dear friend says, and it's in a different language. It doesn't come out in English quite as well, but it's the eye of the owner is the most important thing, or something to that effect. Okay. You can't take your eye off it, and it's very much the case. In a situation like this, you have to be very diligent, you have to be very dialed in.
And all that to say, as a title company, mechanics liens are not really that unusual on consumer. No. They're not, right?
No.
I think that a consumer might think that's really
get really
rare.
Nervous.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and they get nervous, and rightfully so.
Sure.
Anytime something gets filed against your property, especially when you own it and you're not aware, it can cause some heartache and some frustration, especially if you really pull back and get into the legalese and see what some of the remedies are for some of these things, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, I would encourage anyone who runs into a situation to contact their real estate attorney and dive in. We can point folks in that direction. We're a title company, so we can't give legal advice. But we definitely can understand the emotional response to notice that a lien has been filed, especially something that you didn't expect was filed against a piece of property. And so it happens more often than I think people realize. But these things also are able to get remedied. There are ways to get it done. There's requirements that the subs have to follow in order to make sure that they're perfected, the liens are perfected and done accurately. And as long as you're hiring reputable builders, reputable GCs, they typically handle it. And so there are things that, as a homeowner, you can do to insulate yourself from this. And again, I referred to it earlier, being well versed in the property code, particularly Chapter 53, as it relates to this, but also hiring an attorney and having some advice on that, and working and making sure that your contractor is doing the things that they're supposed to be doing when it comes to retainage and following the property code and what it says. Those things are very, very important in order to insulate yourself. Yeah,
and make sure everything's in writing. That's what I can say. Any conversations should be memorialized.
That's very true.
Yeah. So.
Very, very true.
Can you explain how title insurance protects home buyers of new construction even when the property's not been lived in yet?
That goes into a little bit about a previous conversation regarding some of the liens and so on. So let's say somebody owns a lot and they decide to build a new home, or they buy a brand new house from from a builder, a track home builder or a custom home builder in a neighborhood, and a newly developed master plan community, whatever it may be. Nobody's ever lived there before. It's built on your own lot. You own the piece of property prior to, and you're in somebody's building, so you're feeling very confident. No, there's no reason there should be a lien on this, or and in the track home situation, why would there be if I'm buying this thing from Pulte or
Sure.
Whomever,
Yeah.
right? Why would there be a situation? What it all comes back to, it comes back to a couple different things. One, in a previous conversation a little earlier, we talked about property taxes, right? So if it's pulling out big pieces of tracts of land, there's a possibility that you buy it in the middle of the year and they haven't been able to carve out that lot just yet.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't get a tax bill, or you get a giant tax bill that you're not expecting because it comes at you from the parent account perspective. So you buy it.
That would be shocking.
That's right. You buy a 15,000 foot lot and you build a really nice house on it, and then you get a bill for 70 acres because they haven't carved out your 15,000 subdivision.
Yeah, that might make your heart jump.
It can be shocking. So those are sorts of areas where having a good relationship with your builder, number one, but also a good relationship with your title company, and them having a relationship is also very important, right? Not just anybody, but making sure that you've connected those dots. And it doesn't have to be solely the builder's title company or the builder preferred title company. Any title company that is worth their salt and knows how to do their business can absolutely do this. But somebody that's looking out for your interest and is going to walk through the process and be really dialed into how it works is really critical. So that's one example.
Yeah.
All right. Property taxes is definitely one. Another one, again, earlier conversation, is different liens pop up for different reasons. It also could, you have an agreement with a general contractor. Could it be somebody that you didn't have an agreement with that worked for them? And so that they file something that's unbeknownst to you. So getting ahead of all those things, right? And just because you own the piece of property ahead of time and you hired the GC and there shouldn't be anything else and it was paid free and clear, and you're only borrowing money for the new improvement. The other thing that's very important for homeowners to know, especially in that situation, is that they buy the lot and it's built on your own lot. And let's say you own the property free and clear and you bought the property with a title insurance policy.
Right.
Let's say you bought the lot for $500,000 and it's a beautiful lot. It's in a great part of town. You're really excited about it. You build a beautiful 4,500 square foot home on it, and it's everything you could ever want. Well, the value of that property that you had a title policy on only was up to the $500,000 when you bought it for the owner's title policy. But now your property's worth, let's just say, $1.75 million.
Yeah.
Well, if, heaven forbid, you close, there's no mechanics, there's something that happens, right?
Yeah.
There is a lien, whatever.
Right.
Your owner's coverage only covers you up
To
to
$500,000.
the $500,000.
Ooh,
So
there's a gap there.
there would be a gap. So you can elect to, and we would recommend, and this is in your interest, to make sure that you cover the cost of your owner's title policy up to
The
new
new
value.
value.
The new value of the property. And so you can do that in the situation for new construction, especially if it's on build your own lot or something to that. So, making sure that you have the proper coverage in case something happens, so that if there is a claim or there is a problem or whatever, something unforeseen that causes it, that coverage is there.
Yeah. I just, this reminds me, I have a friend that this happened to. There can be clerical errors too, that then your title company can help with that. So Patten didn't close this deal, but my friend brought raw land. It was a piece of property, and they had subdivided, I think, 5 acres into a 3 acre and a 2 acre parcel. The original property owner had a mobile home on the 5 acres, carved that out for themselves, so sold the 3 acres of raw land. Well, what happened was they got the tax bill for all of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it happened at the appraisal district or at but anyway, the title had been transferred on both of them.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Yeah, no.
so I helped them. I just said, call the title company.
Sure.
And the title company corrected it.
Yeah.
And so, but the homeowner, if they didn't have that policy, they wouldn't even know kind of where to begin and get that rectified. So the title company was kind of instrumental in fixing that issue.
Yeah, well, we want to, as a title company, be engaged and be helpful throughout the process, and then even after, if something were to arise, if there's a question, especially when it comes to subdividing, if there was a clerical mistake, or whatever it may be, if the deed gets filed but doesn't get picked up by the appraisal district, which happens happens quite often in the Austin area. As a matter of fact, Travis County is a little slow in picking up deeds, so we have to be very proactive, and we have to work with our customers to be very proactive. And it's not just Travis County, but they are particularly one that you have to make sure that you are picking up the baton and kind of running with it, and making sure that you're filling out the proper information for the CAD and submitting it, showing them a copy of your recorded deed, so that if there is a situation where a piece of property was carved out, it was 5 acres, you bought 3 acres of it, now you're changing it, you want to be able to show where that happens. You need to apply for the new account number. You need to. Some of those things are not necessarily done, especially if you're just buying a piece of property from your neighbor, right? Some of those things are not being done full on, and so you want to make sure that you're following the necessary steps, and we can help point you in that direction, or we can catch them ahead of time and make you aware, hey, we're going to need to have this subdivided if you want to do it this way. So we can point out those things and then refer surveyors and so on, and people who can help with platting. It's never just a cut and dry deal, right? And it's never just between four walls.
Right.
You have to be able to work outside the box a little bit, or be prepared for unexpected things.
Yeah, and I would say with new construction, it's important to have a title company that's a little experienced and well-versed with these types of transactions.
Yeah, well, in all of them, it's really good to have people working for your interest, all right, that are either that are your advocate and are your agent, like your real estate agents, right? That are there, that are professionals, that are working and who know what they're doing and can help you navigate situations. That you have non-biased third parties who are not owned by or captive to anybody else who has a financial interest in them, right? So, independence is really important from that standpoint. So working with a title company that is removed from and is there to try and be as responsible for the seller or the builder's interest as they are for the homeowner's interest. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to have this non-biased third party operate and make sure that everybody gets paid correctly, that the right thing is done, that we have a fiduciary responsibility to both parties.
Yeah, and it's a really good point.
And oftentimes, we live in a day and age where it's about convenience, and I understand that, and we want things to be convenient, and it's good to have good partners. But sometimes when there's a financial tie to some of these companies, and they are tied to the sellers in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. And maybe it's the builder, maybe it's an agency, whatever it is, right? A brokerage and so on. Unintentionally, I'm not saying that it can get a little bit skewed. And so our goal is always to be this independent, fiduciary, responsible voice that's there in everybody's interest.
Yeah, neutral. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. We've got a great piece on understanding title insurance for commercial properties.
Yeah.
So commercial, is a little more unique. We see quite a bit of them at Patten Title. We have a lot of great escrow officers that can handle commercial closings. But tell me about some of the things that make commercial transactions unique. Yeah,
well, they're definitely a different animal than residential, and for a couple of different reasons. Typically on the residential side, and I say this lightly, it's a little bit more inside the box. You're really focused on making sure that the ownership is clean and clear, right? It's usually an individual or a married couple or something like that who owns the property.
Right.
If there's any kind of question about lineage and heirs and so on, you can get to the bottom of it relatively easily. For the most part, obviously, there's
right. There's
and then there's a real focus on making sure that everything on Schedule C of the title commitment is taken care of, paying off the old lien, making sure that there are no judgments, those sorts of things. But you live in a very particular area, and typically on retail transactions, it's pretty straightforward. There are definitely some deals where and we've talked about this in previous pieces about inherited generational properties where it can get a little bit murkier and you got to navigate. But by and large, that's what you're dealing with from a residential side. On the commercial side, there are several different things that come into play. From a title company perspective, right off of the bat, you're talking about ownership. So oftentimes it's not an individual, it's an entity.
Right.
Right. And so with entities, they are often easily set up and not necessarily well spelled out on the powers that be, because now you have people who have control of the entity, who can operate on behalf of the entity or do things on behalf of the entity, but they aren't the entity. The entity is, right? The LLC is, or the corporation is. So being able to identify who can sign and who's got authority, if it's been spelled out in documentation prior to, right, and making sure that that's all reviewed by an attorney and clearly identified, so that corporate resolutions can be drawn up if necessary, or if the articles of organization clearly spell those things out, that they can be easily found and there's no ambiguity. And then also part of corporations and part of ownership under an entity is that things can change behind the scenes. Right? And there's individual record keeping that takes place. So there's a reliance. Typically, we rely on what are called corporate resolutions that are further assertions of, at this moment in time, right now, so and so has the ability to sign off on this particular transaction, and they were granted that authority by the managers or the members or whomever it may be, depending on the structure, right? Yeah. Or if it's a corporation, maybe it's an officer who was bestowed that power in the articles. And so, but all of those things matter, right? And so sifting through that, being able to identify that changes the dynamic a little bit from a title company perspective from a residential deal, right? You got to be able, we need to be able to review it, and then we need to be able to go to our underwriters or visit with attorneys to be able to point out and make sure that the correct requirements are put in place, so that the new owner can feel very confident and secure that who they bought it from is the person that they think it is, and they had the power to do so and so. Yeah. So that would be number one, probably the biggest difference. Okay. And depending on the type of commercial deals, and when people hear commercial, it varies, right? I mean, a commercial transaction is anything that's not going to be residential. So it can be a $5,000 lot, right? Warehouse, or a $10,000 warehouse, or it can be an
RV park.
It can be an RV park.
Or it can be a high-rise.
It can be a $100 million high-rise, right? Whatever it may be. So all of those things matter. The complexity of the organizational structures vary depending on the type of transactions or the type of business that it is. And also the record keeping varies. So those are areas that as a title company we're going to want to dive into and really examine, and we're going to need participation and assistance with in order to get to the bottom of it. And most folks that do lots of these deals understand that. But again, these can be bits of pain points, especially for folks who have not done them in the past or done these sorts of things in the past. They have to get acquainted with the process.
There's a lot more paperwork, research. Yeah.
So that's one significant difference. And then the other difference, I would say, it really comes to pass, and I encourage residential or commercial to always pay attention. Schedule C is pretty straightforward. Those are the things the title company is going to clear up in order to get you closed. Schedule B is where the meat and potatoes of things are really found. That's where the exceptions are. Those are the exceptions from the standard coverage on the title policy. So it becomes incumbent upon the new owners to really understand and read through what's covered and what's not. And if there are things in there that they're concerned about, to raise those questions. And so oftentimes on commercial transactions, there will be attorneys involved that are operating on behalf of both parties, right? Buyers and sellers, in their interest, as their advocates, as their attorneys, right? To ensure they're getting the best deal possible and the safest deal possible. As a title company, we too are that fiduciary. We're trying to make sure that both interests are aligned and protected. We're trying to get it to the closing table correctly. But there may be a situation where we can't necessarily weigh in on it. because it's outside the scope of our responsibility, because it would be maybe in the benefit of the buyer or maybe in the benefit of the seller.
Or legal advice.
Or exactly, we can't give legal advice.
Right.
So our escrow officers are not attorneys; they're not equipped to do that,
Yeah.
and we're not acting in a capacity that represents
Either
the
party,
interest
yeah.
of either party, right? So so one of the things that often happens with commercial deals is that you're going to have attorneys involved, and they're going to do what are called attorney objection letters. They're going to go in and really review Schedule B, and they're going to provide a laundry list of things that they want changed or removed or coverage, and this is a very standard procedure that takes place on all
Right.
these commercial deals, and the attorneys put together and they ask for everything, and there's some things that the title company can work with them on. There's some things that we can't. There's some things that will take extra steps in order to do, and there has to be agreement by all parties, or maybe it changes. Oftentimes in the contracts there are requirements for leases and estoppels and things of that nature, and again, the buyer has to confirm that they've read it or their attorneys have gone through it before they do it, and the title company doesn't necessarily facilitate that portion, but that's a big difference.
Okay. Yes, it is.
in what goes on between a commercial transaction and a residential transaction. The other thing that's really different between the two are in commercial transactions, the dates work a little bit differently. Right, you have feasibility periods that are typically a little bit longer. On a residential transaction, you usually have an option period that's 7 days,
Yeah,
10
right,
days,
right.
something of that nature, and that's your opportunity to get your inspectors out there, look at the property, feel good about it, and say, all right, we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then your earnest money is in, and you're going for it. Whereas on commercial deals, there are typically longer feasibility periods where they enter into a contract, and it's, okay, we're going to have a 60-day feasibility period, or 45, or 90-day feasibility. It just depends, right?
Yeah.
And there's a much higher level of due diligence, and sometimes there are earnest money that is non-refundable in order to buy that feasibility. Sometimes it is refundable up until the feasibility period ends, but it's usually a longer process, and the level of diligence is much higher. Also, there are a little bit more hard and fast dates that get set up, right? Requirements for dates. So there's certain timing that everybody is required to meet in order to maintain the efficacy and the enforceability of that contract. And so that's not necessarily dissimilar to a residential deal. There are some of those same requirements, but they're not as many, and they're typically, again, it's a little bit more cookie cutter on the residential
Right.
side. Everybody's kind of running through it at the same rate of speed, and there are most certainly pitfalls on the residential side that people get caught in all the time. I don't want to go on a tangent, but one of them is I can't remember off the top of my head exactly, but there's a box as it relates to existing surveys. And then there's a follow-up box on there about if the existing survey is not delivered in a standard amount of time, or it's not approved by the title company, who pays for it, right? And so sometimes they miss, or historically speaking, those things are a little bit easier to negotiate through or walk through. The buyers and the sellers sometimes have a little bit more of an amicable relationship. It's not the end of the world. You want to follow your contract to a T and do it all right, but it happens on these commercial deals that are these giant deals, especially when they're bigger. It can mean a little bit more. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's just when the stakes are higher, the prices are higher.
Attorneys
involved. Things can be a little bit tighter. And so you want to make sure that you're hitting those dates, paying attention to those dates. As a title company, we work really hard to make sure that they're really easy to read, that we pull them out. We send them to all parties, and we really do our best to give easy readers and stay on top and be a really solid communication force for both parties, so everybody knows as things are coming up, and you're constantly being tickled and reminded and seen, and just as a level of good service that we want to provide.
Speaking of, though, the differences, we usually see residential contracts on the TREC forms, whereas on commercial, the contracts are oftentimes, they're not on a form. They're attorney generated, and they don't.
They're much more bespoke, right? They're custom documents oftentimes, and there's some that are promulgated and a little bit more standard. But you're absolutely right. You get very accustomed to know where to look, how to look, where to find on a residential deal, and when those are going. And so that is why working with an escrow officer who has experience on the commercial side, that understands, that's not that's not intimidated by the amount of verbiage that are in these contracts, and can go in and help pull things out and make sure that they can create a list of important dates and help communicate, and then also be engaged. There's going to be a lot of engagement, and a good escrow officer is going to be very much engaged with not only the buyers and the sellers or their agents, but also their attorneys, right? And working with them on the objection letters, working through it on their objection letters, and oftentimes that escrow officer becomes a conduit. They don't necessarily have all the answers, right? Because on some of these deals they have to get underwriters to sign off, or they have to get a legal opinion from someone else, because it requires oftentimes removing some things in title or so on. So they're getting approval or requirements that get put on that we don't make that determination. The insurer makes that determination. The underwriters make those determinations sometimes. So they become this conduit between the attorneys and the underwriters and the examiners and the title officers in order to get it. And that's what we do. We want to be really good facilitators who is working on behalf of everybody to get the contract from start to the closing table and funded. And that's our job.
Very interesting and informative, and I know we've got some escrow officers who do fantastic on
we do.
Commercial
We've
deals.
got it's good. We have some really good hybrid escrow officers, some who can that have danced on both sides of that fence and are just as capable in the commercial realm as they are in the residential realm, and vice versa. And that's a real skill set.
It is.
It truly is.
If you're a real estate professional, it's good to connect with your clients in a way that's relevant to them. And in December, that's all things holidays. And so Patten has a wonderful piece on travel destinations in Texas. Texas offers some great last-minute holiday getaways. Austin's Trail of Lights and quirky 37th Street displays, San Antonio's glowing Riverwalk, Dallas's 12 Days of Christmas and Galleria skating, Fredericksburg's German Christmas Pyramid, or choose peaceful coastal towns along the Gulf Coast, or escape to Marfa for desert skies and art. Wherever you go, Texas brings unforgettable holiday magic, and Patten Title is here to help you find your perfect home base. Want to stand out as a real estate professional? Use market statistics to power your conversations. Buyers and sellers want insights on home prices, days on markets, inventory, sales volume, and neighborhood trends. Patten Title provides a full stats library with real-time, filtered data you can use in your presentations and marketing. Data helps you set expectations, write stronger offers, build trust, and differentiate yourself. Show clients the data and show them your value. If you're a real estate professional, December is an excellent time to show you care by providing this information to your database. Help them prepare their emergency kits. And with this extreme weather piece, there's also QR codes for 5 additional pieces, which includes adequate insurance, disaster supply kit, hurricane preparation, hurricane recovery, and winterizing your home. Are you ready to make 2026 the year your real estate business levels up? Here are the top business planning tips agents are using to start strong. First, get clear on your goals. What do you want to achieve in the next 90 days? The next 12 months? Pull out last year's notes and decide what stays and what goes. Second, re-engage your sphere. A simple New Year email or message can spark conversations with clients who are already thinking about big life changes. Use it to highlight market trends and remind them you are their go-to resource. Next, refresh your brand. Update your social media, dial in your messaging, and use tools like Patten Plus to create consistent professional content without any stress. Finally, set up accountability. Your Patten Title rep is ready to cheer you on and keep you on track all year. And don't just set goals, create a structure that actually gets you there. A great year doesn't happen by accident. With intention, direction, and the right tools and team, you can create your strongest year yet. And Patten Title is right here to support you. All right. Well, December, we've got a few things to note. First of all, offices will be closed because allowing our people to spend that time with their families is very important.
Yeah, so this year we're doing the Patten Christmas break. We're really excited to be able to do it. It's a special time of year. We like to embrace it as best we can. And because of the way the holiday fell, we've always done the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. That's something that we've committed to as a company because it's Wednesday and Thursday this year. We anticipate Friday being a relatively quiet day.
Yeah.
So we are doing a Patten Christmas break, and all of our employees, so it's a nice 5-day weekend, which is exciting. And at the end of the day, we hope our customers and clients understand that they all want to be with their families too. We're going to work super diligently to get everything closed prior to, and then we'll be right back there to close out the year with them all the way through and get it done as well. But it's a special time of year. It's family time of year, and I think everybody understands and embraces it. And we think it's a really nice thing to be able to do for the team.
I agree, and I think most people are going to be with their families on that day. And so also going to be closed on New Year's Eve, national holiday.
Well, no. On New Year's Day.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's
right in front of me.
Yep. No, we will work
January
up.
1st.
No, we will work up to work up to the 31st. We're going to close out the year with everybody. There's lots of deadlines to be met. And like I said, we'll pick it up and run it all the way through the end, and then we'll start the year with a relaxing, big deep breath, and then back at it on the 2nd.
Perfect. All right. Well, one of my favorite things every month when you and I get together is to celebrate our employees on their anniversaries. And we're so blessed to have people that have been with us for 20 plus years, and those that are with us for 1+ years are also a big celebration. So
for sure.
We've got Gabriel Castro celebrating 6 years.
Yeah, so Gabriel, and then also Angel and Carlos.
Three of them.
They're all 6, and they got hired at the same time. That is our. They are our examiners extraordinaire. They are our initial examiners when we opened up our examination department. It was one of the really big monumental moments of us becoming Patten Title, becoming a title company, a title agency, having our own examiners, and being able to do our own title work in-house. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. And so, Gabriel does an amazing job of what he does as far as managing all of the updates and the title boxes that comes in, and he's a very busy man with a team with him. And then Angel is a examiner extraordinaire, both on the commercial front, residential front. Never met a property he can't figure out and put a puzzle back to piece. And then Carlos is our plant manager, and he does an amazing job of really driving home not only accountability, but keeping everybody on the same track and really building a really solid team there, and everyone really knowing what we're trying to accomplish as a group. So, yeah, it's been 6 great years, a great, amazing evolution.
Flown by.
Well, and just a real evolution of what it's become. It's been really something. So, happy anniversary to them this month.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we've got the longest celebration for this month is Miss Robin Fudge with 9 years in our Kingwood office.
Yeah, so Robin has been with us for quite some time, and she is an absolute just cornerstone and stalwart for what we do. She's been in a couple different locations.
I remember,
supporting teams from all over. So she is now a very essential piece of what they do in the Kingwood office, and happy 9-year anniversary to Robin for sure.
Yeah, and then we've got the 1-year anniversary of Katie Team A, Ashley Murray, Stephanie Clark, and Nakia
DeRoman. Yeah, they came on last December and just really hit the ground running. They've done a really spectacular job of converting their customer base and growing their customer base. It's been really nice to have them there in our Katy location with the existing team. They get along great. It's really fun to have these two teams in there. And, Ashley and Stephanie and Nakia, they do a great job.
They do a great job. Great really reviews.
Absolutely.
And I will also say,
super hard workers, really know their stuff. There's
It seems like longer than a year to me, just because they got in and really integrated so well into Patten and the culture,
And then just
yeah,
hit the ground running.
hit the ground running.
They're a special group of ladies, and excited to see what year 2 has involved.
Their
has in store
momentum's
for them.
just getting started.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a big year.
And then we are celebrating 1 year for Miss Allie Perez in the Woodlands.
So Allie came over about the same time, and we're really glad that she's up in that area, in the Spring area, and so it was closer to home, easier. It was a good transition, a good time to move. So yeah, we couldn't be happier. She's doing an amazing job at really building customer base too. Really helping just solidify some things out in the Woodlands and helping grow that office. She's a great escrow assistant that has a whole lot of knowledge, and clients and customers, they love her, and so we do too.
Very good. All right. So to close it out.
Well, as we close out 2025, I'd just like to wish all of our customers and clients and friends and family out there a very Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.